Yeah, hello, Tim. It's Andy and Tim. It's two peas in a pod discussing the topics mainstream media don't talk about. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
got a couple of things to talk about, and you've got a couple of things. So, do you want to go first?
yeah. Well, I hate to say it, but I don't trust any of our governments. And while they claim that their aim is to protect us, I don't think they're protecting us. Why would the globalists insist that we have exceeded the planet's carrying capacity and there's just simply too many of us, imposing too much of a drain on the planet's resources? And even though they claim we're the biggest problem, the overpopulated humans, they claim they want to protect our health with vaccines. Right. So when Bill Gates gave his TED talk, in which he said if we do a really good job with vaccines, we could lower the planet's population by 20%. Well, wait a second. I thought vaccines were supposed to protect the population so that they did not succumb to infectious disease. So, what is he talking about? Well, I've heard the Gates Foundation apologists' explanation that he's claiming that by protecting the health of young children in developing countries like Africa, the the effect is that women have less children because if their children survive infancy and they have 4 children and they've all survived infancy, then chances are they're not going to have any more. Well, to me, that just doesn't make sense. And I don't believe Bill Gates, and I don't believe any of the criminals that work for him. Okay. Okay, so this is worrying because young people in distress who are treated by paramedics or A&E staff are not being recorded in England's health statistics. Thousands of patients are being omitted from official health statistics because they are not seen by hospitals or GPs. Okay, so because these patients never checked into hospitals and were only treated in ambulances or by paramedics and never checked in at the hospital, they're not recorded. So what happened to them? Did they recover? There's no accounting of whether they are alive or whether they succumb to some illness. They're just not listed. Now, that worries me. I don't know about you, Andy, but here in Canada, they have a program called MAID, MAID, and it's a medically assisted induced death scenario. And now they've changed the law through federal law so that they do not have to list the death as being a MAID event. They can claim the patient died of whatever they were health-wise afflicted, whatever the disease happens to be, cancer, kidney, renal failure, diabetes, whatever, they can claim the patient died from a disease, and they do not have to claim that they died through medical intervention known as MAID, which means that the Canadian government has approved genocide and concealing it from the public record that they are genociding people with mental health or other ailments. Now, I noticed that with the COVID-19 pharma genocide, people that had diabetes were very vulnerable. Was that intended? Was it known that this virus would make it very difficult for a diabetic to fight it off and recover?
It made it difficult for everybody to fight it off and recover. Sorry, not just yeah.
No, but I'm just suggesting that as a bioweapon, it was intended to target certain undesired segments of the population. Do you see my point, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, the world governments have accepted, I think, in part, that the COVID jabs didn't do anybody any good. But I don't think they've gone that far yet to say, look, well, for diabetes patients, you know what I'm trying to say. I don't think anyway, but we know it does everyone damage. But yeah, I think I know what you're saying. I'm a little bit tongue-tied because I was going to lead in. I'm going to lead into this when you finish that point on another point, very similar but non-COVID related. But it might all just link in anyway.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. What it is, you described something in Canada that's very similar over here.
Uh,
Whether it's pre-COVID or past COVID, before or after, it don't matter. But we've got an epidemic at the moment. It's called corridor care. Now, corridor care in the UK involves treating patients in inappropriate areas like corridors, waiting rooms, in ambulances, on the way to the hospital, and so on, you know. And like you said, if these people die and they've not had a doctor to decide
issue
what
of
they really died of, they could just make any, well, they could just say it was, yeah, that's it. Let's say that the person had cancer or they had kidney problems. Yeah, that's what they died of. But, they would then sort of, because it was an uneventful death, it wasn't a problem for the police or the coroner to get involved. That would be marked down as that death. But I think what you're saying is they could easily hide the people then who have had the jab that went in with symptoms of their cancer, but really the COVID actually killed them rather than yeah. So we're having a bad stats at the moment on corridor care deaths. It's really ridiculous, and it's shot up since COVID. After COVID, it's shot up. I mean, it's 23,000 at the moment, excess deaths annually in corridors.
okay.
So that's kind of that little bit.
Yeah, I get you.
And then I've got a little bit more later when you finish your bit.
Okay. So some people were treated by ambulance staff at the scene or later saw a GP or took themselves to A&E. What is A&E, Andy?
Accident and emergency.
But can conditions that are not commonly treated in hospitals, such as mental health issues, substance abuse, or self harm, are likely to be dramatically undercounted, according to the analysis by YAS and the Association of Ambulance Chief Executives. All right, so if they are not being registered at the hospital and they are just treated in the ambulance or by the paramedics, and maybe they're just mental health patients, and ostensibly the treatment is administering some kind of sedative, okay? But what if the UK has also implemented MAID and they're just not telling people there, and these impoverished people from depressed areas that suffer from mental health disorders, it's been determined that they're a drain on society, and the government has instructed the emergency services that they should not make it to the hospital and not register, no death certificate ever filed, and if they're eliminated, they do not disclose this fact. It is never disclosed because they were never registered in a hospital. Would I put it past these criminals to do something that diabolical? Absolutely not. And I also think that with this new legislation that's been introduced in Canada with MAID, where they don't have to declare that they were killed by MAID, that they died from some kind of medical condition, they can harvest the patient's organs before they die, which is horrific because it requires an operation while the person is still alive, because the organ that is being harvested has to be alive. It's no good harvesting an organ consisting of dead tissue. Absolutely no use. So that's horrifying to consider, don't you think? That you're subjecting a patient to an operation before you administer the death injection that will claim their life. And would they even administer an anesthetic, even a local anesthetic, to perform this organ harvest? I know this is morose to the extreme, but I mean, well, we got to talk about it, right?
Nothing surprises me. Definitely not.
Yeah.
It's probably not relevant, but going back to what you said in an email, I think the Hopi prophecy and the Great Purification is coming forward. I mean, all these wars have started. People are getting greedy. There's more homeless people. There's people in government lying, thieving. It's really getting so serious now that you know,
Yeah.
like people in Ireland at the moment, they're so cheesed off with these fuel prices from this war that the farmers are saying, "Look, if we don't get fuel, you don't eat." End of. The whole country. I mean, they were sending the army in the other day to put the tractors away from the streets.
Uh,
Now, today, the UK said we're doing the same. Our government means nothing to us. We're just going to do what the Irish have been doing. And then, just as if things couldn't get more peaceful, Turkey says, Israel, if you ever hit lesbian, start again, Lebanon, again, we'll come and beat you and we'll knock you senseless. So Turkey has got themselves in this war with Israel.
oh dear.
George sent us it just now. I mean, that's shocking. Mind you, he's a bit of a crazy guy. Erdogan is President Erdogan. I don't know if that's how you say it, but nobody liked him when we was in Turkey. We said to people this about 3 or 4 years ago, things have changed round here. It doesn't seem the Turkey we remembered. And they said,
Uh,
oh, it's because of President Erdogan. He's just been elected.
oh,
So I don't know. But that prophecy definitely is coming to its fruition very soon.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
think we're talking two separate things regarding the medical side, but still, it's scary to what you've been saying about it. It's also scary to die in corridors when you can't get the proper treatment, and then them saying, that you died of this rather than that. Okay, my version you was registered at the hospital, but your version there wasn't. So yeah, it's scary what's going on.
yeah.
Oh, and to top it all, as my good friend on YouTube, I can't remember her name now, but she does like 1 minute of sarcasm every day about the British government, and she'd say something like "Trumpy Trump has got his nappies in a twist now, and he's blocking the Strait of Hormuz, with the Navy vessels." So he's just said that 1 hour ago. So we got him blocking the Strait of Hormuz. The Iran peace thing has broken down on the first day, and we've got Turkey now going to batter Israel if they batter Lebanon. Yeah, but all over, a simple denominator. It's all over oil and all over money and power,
Uh,
which is very scary to them. But
yeah.
I'd look at it a different way. We may have had most of our days, but at least if we can share a bit of information to help others before we sort of pass on to the next world, then it'll be worth it.
Indeed. You know about the HPV vaccine fraud, Andy?
Yeah, Christina England, people want to Google her. Christina England researcher. She's just wrote a piece about that. I mean, if you wanted, I could read that out, or you could just read what you've got out.
Okay, you read it and I'll comment occasionally.
Give me a second to find it. It's just on there. There we go. Because I handle all these websites, it's easy for me to find stuff.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'll
Think about this, folks. Andy Peacher working tirelessly to share this vital information concerning public safety risks for your benefit at no pay, at tremendous effort and time, and he does this for you. And I gotta tell you, this information on these two websites that Andy has created is stunning. Very, very important. Okay, go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, so one website is vaccineinjustice.co.uk, and The other one is the abusevepsychiatry.co.uk. So they're quite good websites, as well as shaking the Shakespeare Codex yourself. Right. So Christina recently wrote on vaccineinjustice.co.uk. She has written a piece called Exposed Missing Evidence of the Dangers of the HPV vaccine. The human papillomavirus HPV vaccine was originally approved by the US Food and Drug Admin FDA in 2006 and was introduced to the public as a vaccine that could protect women against HPV 16 and HPV 18. The two strains of the virus believed to be responsible for 70% of all cases of cervical cancer. However,
Cervical
despite the
test.
fact that the WHO, World Health Organization, has continually portrayed the HPV vaccine as safe and effective, a large number of professionals from around the world have been questioning the potential dangers of the vaccine for many years. So basically, rather than going into the whole article, I would say to people, Google Professor Christopher Exley, because Professor Christopher Exley backs up the science Christine's talking about. Yeah, so if you've got any more to add to that, Tim, she just goes on about
Yeah.
the science that Professor
Well, I want to
Christopher
say
Exley could do.
that the World Health Organization is a double entendre because health has to do with genetic hygiene, not health as in protection against infectious disease. So the World Health Organization is actually a genocide, eugenics, depopulation organization. And given that I met a very nasty official from WHO in Ottawa years ago, who tried to, shut me up and considered me dangerous for pointing out that people like her are dangerous. Um, Look, I mean, people are entitled to their opinions. It doesn't make them dangerous. If you don't agree, it's wrong to censor someone as dangerous. But when you behave like a fascist who denies people the freedom of speech and tries to politically and socially and yeah, she did. And how dare her? How dare her? There's nothing wrong with my intelligence or my mind. And there's seriously something wrong with a control freak bitch from the World Health Organization that behaves like that. My daughter and I were building a snowman on a ledge in the parking lot at my friend's apartment building where we had been invited for Christmas. She came over and, thinking that she owns the goddamn place, told us to get down. Well, I'm not going to argue with a bitch when you can't win an argument with an unreasonable person. So I just complied and jumped down and walked away. Later, she turned out to be a guest at my friend's house, which just set up Christmas to be a war. I suppose I should have kept my mouth shut, but I'm tired of control freaks, and so I spent the weekend debating with the bitch.
Well, people, God bless them and hope their lives improve. But people in homeless centres, such as the one you're in today, around the world, are direct targets. Not targets. They're the not as a result of greed and as a result of policies around governments. These poor people are, through no fault of their own, they're ending up on the streets. And there's some good people in homeless shelters, they want to work, they want to have a home, they want to do whatever they want to do. It's not like they're there because they love it, most of them.
Well, I'm here because I tried to help other people, and and then I loaned money to someone else who I was trying to help, and she couldn't pay me back. So there you go. There is a proverb that no good deed goes unpunished. Well, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but certainly in the old system of fascist control, that was the case. I mean, think of feudal times, for example, when you would enter the lands of the local lord, and maybe because you're hungry, you steal some produce or or grab a sheep because you're starving. I mean, what was the consequence of that type of crime? Well, we know, right? It was in those days in Europe, it was equivalent barbarism to what we see in Islam under Sharia law, where you would get maybe your hand cut off or possibly suffer execution.
Oh,
Anyway,
who's that?
so I don't know whether you see my point, Andy.
I can't see nothing, only you. Oh, you got sore nose.
In a 2024 newsletter, Professor Christopher Exley wrote this: there is no top trumps on the worst of vaccines that include an aluminum adjuvant. However, so-called vaccines against the human papilloma virus must give most a run for their money. Herein, I simply wish to direct you to critical comment and information on the subject. I hope this will be sufficient to deter you from subjecting yourself or your child to this evil vaccine. So, with all these vaccines like the HPV, why do they recommend them to pregnant women? I would argue that it's because they wish to introduce a sterilizing agent that will prevent pregnancy and maybe make the woman infertile for life, in addition to, instead of protecting her from the virus that causes cancer, it actually gives them the virus that causes cancer. According to Professor Exley, one of the main reasons that the HPV vaccine is so dangerous is the fact that it contains more of the adjuvant aluminum than any other vaccine. Oh, the other thing is, Andy, that the law has withdrawn the recommended dosage of the aluminum in a vaccine. So a company like Merck that manufactures and distributes the Gardasil vaccine for HPV have doubled the dosage. Now, one thing I am a little bit confused about is that they're calling the aluminum in this HPV vaccine as an adjuvant. Well, I know what an adjuvant is. I've studied this field of medicine quite a bit, and an adjuvant is meant to boost the effectiveness of the immune boosting effect of the vaccine. But I can recall that when I began my course of study in this subject area with Dr. Rebecca Carley back in around the year 2000 or so, she shared articles and information with me, and one of the facts that I gleaned from the radio shows that we used to do together at a radio station in Florida was that the vaccines contain sterilizing agents, not adjuvants, but sterilizing agents that are meant to prevent the weakened virus in the vaccine from causing infection or prevent any other opportunistic infectious disease causing pathogenic material from forming in the vaccine, i.e. bacteria. Okay, so one of the main ways of using the sterilizing agent in vaccines was by creating a sterilizer called thimerosal. And thimerosal was created by combining aluminum with mercury and formaldehyde. I know it's horrifying. Those were the three ingredients in thimerosal, and they're all neurotoxins. So you can imagine the kind of damage it's doing to the neuron receptors in your brain, because all of them are neurotoxins. But they keep changing the narrative, so now they're calling the aluminum an adjuvant instead of a sterilizing agent. So, which is it? Or is it really either? Or are they just finding excuses to put this poison into the vaccines, ostensibly to protect people, when it's actually meant to harm them and maim them and kill them? Well, I wouldn't be surprised, would you, Andy?
Yeah, I mean to have one of them agents in a vaccine's bad, but to have two, three, or more, it wouldn't surprise me what they're doing anymore. But then it doesn't make sense if you look at it from a sense point of view. If they're trying to de-sterilize women, but then they're offering fertility treatment to men and women, so I don't understand that bit. It's probably, well, I probably do actually. The
Well, it's a
fertility
profit.
treatment is to make money, and while they're doing that, oh, have the HPV at the same
Fertility
time.
treatment.
Oh
Fertility
dear.
treatment is offered to the rich. It's offered to people of the upper middle class that have huge incomes and can afford the fertility treatment. And the government's fine with that because they're likely to have educated children, and they will be likely to succeed and hold good jobs with a good income. So it may be okay with promoting fertility in those people. But from poor urban neighborhoods, they may have an entirely different attitude towards eugenics.
This is true. Yeah, we've only got a couple of minutes, Tim. If you want to just finish off and ask people to like, share, and comment, it'd be brilliant.
Yeah. I have to share last week's show. I have only just received the link, so I will. I will share it on Facebook.
Oh, you want to get going?
And Andy will no doubt do the same for today's show. So awesome. Thank you very much. As always, my info warrior buddy.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. It's always a pleasure.
Yes, buddy.